Okay, hi, we're live. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us. Oh my God, has it been a week? So we are so glad that you are here with us, and we have so much to share with you. So I hope that we've got some people on the line. I'm not seeing any viewers right now, and I know we had a problem before that people could not see the broadcast. So let's just troubleshoot and see if we have any I saw a heart there. So a heart usually means that somebody's on, and I see some people coming on now. Somebody want to just throw their love into the comments and say like, hey, we're on YouTube, we can see you. And I see some people coming on now. Anybody want to post a comment on the YouTube channel or the Facebook channel? And we will just make sure that we are all here. So we have really GA voters for hand-marked paper ballots. Love it. Okay, I know that I am with the right crowd. Hey, Tracy, Leah. Oh, Jennifer's here. Awesome. Thanks so much for being here with us. She's done some wonderful work. Great. Okay, here we go. So we have Benny Smith with us to say hello. Hey, Benny, how are you?
All right, Lulu, how are you? How is everybody?
Oh, my God.
Post-election.
The craziness continues. So what we have for you tonight is pretty exciting. So, and Benny is kind of at the center of all of this. So
am I?
You are.
Okay, thank you for telling me, Lulu.
You always are. You always are. Even though you pretend that you don't know, you do. You're at the center of it. Okay. So Benny took this photo of a poll tape in Memphis, Tennessee in 2015. And then and what's a poll tape? I think most of our crowd knows by now what's a poll tape. The poll tape is a small slip of paper, or sometimes a very long slip of paper, that the voting machines print out at the end of the election, at the end of election night. And it has all of the votes that the machine has counted on that one tape. It's called a poll tape. It looks kind of like a cash register. And in many states, you are required, the election officials are required to post those at the end of the polling day and at the end of election day. And advocates who are interested in making sure that the votes are counted accurately can take photographs of those poll tapes and then compare them later to the election results when they are released by the officials. And why would you do that? What difference would it make? Well, it turns out that our results go through a whole series of steps, a whole series of events. After they're printed by the machines, they get aggregated. They often get transferred on flash drives. That's like a USB stick. And then they get put into computers. Tell us some of the other things, Benny, that happen with the results after they come out of the machines.
Yeah, some are transmitted via modem. Some are taken to zones and sent across old school dial-up lines. So there's a transmission process that after this, basically the closest thing you'll see to like a cash register receipt, after that is compiled, then the transmission happens through some other medium.
And it goes into multiple computers. Sometimes it goes across an internet line, because if they transfer those results via modem, a lot of different, it can go into spreadsheets where people can actually manually change those results, right?
Yep.
Okay, so a lot of stuff can happen. So this is one part of the process that we're checking. We're going to be checking lots of different steps in the process because we're really interested in the whole picture and making sure, having confidence that the election results are counted accurately. But this is one thing that we're doing right now. So in 2015, Benny took a photo of this poll tape, and tell us just briefly what happened with that.
Shout out to BlackBerry. Where's my endorsement? I took my BlackBerry phone out. I took a picture of the poll tape. It captures 548 participants. Once it was aggregated, that same precinct after tabulation was represented as 330 participants, and that's a problem. So
right. So the votes started out in the 500 range, and then when they were reported, they went down to 300. And so because of that, we have really, that was kind of the initiating moment. And since that time, Benny has really encouraged people all over the country to take photos of poll tapes to the point where now, and this is so incredibly exciting, we're going to be showing you our new website. And I'm just going to share my screen. And by the way, I was so excited, I didn't even really do introductions. We're Smart Elections, and you can find us at smartelections.us, and you can reach out and contact us anytime you want. Our website is contact@smartelections.us. And well,
donations are welcome.
We do have a donation page. Actually, usually we get a little further into the show, but we do have a donation page.
Disclaimer up front.
Right there. And if you want to contact us, the easiest way is a contact at smartelections.us. I don't know what happened to we had a banner built before, but here we go. It's not a hard one. And so that's an easy way to be in touch with us. And what I am going to show you right now is really pretty exciting. We have worked really hard on this. This is our new website. And let me just share it with you. So we, during this election, the 2020 election, hundreds of volunteers around the country took photographs of poll tapes at the end of election night in the same way that Benny did on that night in 2015. Only now we're so much more organized about it. So now what we've done, and let's see if you're seeing us here. So we not only have encouraged hundreds of people, and groups across the country are doing this, not just us. So there were dozens of groups that did this, that aggregated, that had people upload them. But we're part of the, the collaborative process. We're part of the partnership. And I'll show you how this is developing now. So after all of these volunteers went on election night and took photographs of the poll tapes and video also, they uploaded them. The sites that we collaborated with were csay2020.com and democracycounts.com. And people uploaded to those sites. And then we have a map now, and this is so exciting. This is courtesy of csay2020.com. And you can see all of those little orange and purple dots. Every one of those dots on a map, and you can see big clusters of them, is somewhere where people took poll tapes. Hundreds and hundreds of photos and videos of poll tapes. And at Smart Elections, what we've done, and I don't think anyone's done this before, I really think this is unprecedented. We have, in a very short period of time, in a week, we have aggregated all of those poll tapes and gotten a really crack data team together, and they have transcribed these and they have put them into spreadsheets so that we can really start to analyze them. And so we've got 3 of them online for you tonight, and we will talk about these later in the show. We have Florida, we have Georgia, and we have Pennsylvania spreadsheets. And you can kind of see a little bit, you can see like some of the, when you can see kind of the details of the poll tapes there. You can see like that's the top of the poll tape. It has the date and time when the polls opened. This is the actual races on the poll tape. These are the signatures. So you can see, and when you click on those, you're going to get our spreadsheets. And we're going to talk about that later in the show. And I have to say that I know that I know most people don't get super excited about spreadsheets, but spreadsheets are exciting, right, Benny? Tell us why.
Absolutely, I live in those.
But why? What's the difference? You think like you have a photo of a poll tape, or you have the results in a spreadsheet? Like, does it matter? Like, why? Why is the spreadsheet so important?
The spreadsheet is golden because data is the new currency, and if you can't add the totals up, you can't get to a cumulative total, and that's what we are reduced to on election night. We see just 2 totals, but we have no idea of the details because that data gets committed but not captured. So to capture it and transcribe it, that's a pretty good feat that you've accomplished there.
All right, thank you very much. And I'm just going to translate that to the general public who
Okay.
might not know all those big words, but basically what we're saying here is that because we
Good
have
job.
the numbers, the jargon, because we have those numbers in a spreadsheet now, we can do a lot of different things with them. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to compare them to election results. And that's going to be very exciting. So Benny's going to come back with us later in the show when we do that. And we're going to get to some other really, really important stuff right now. So thanks so much for being here, Benny.
All right.
Okay. So that's our debut of the CountTheVote.Info website. I'll put that up one more time, CountTheVote.Info. And we'll come back and we'll take some questions on that. I'll see in the comments, do we have any? I think, I don't see any questions there right now. If you have questions for us, go ahead and put them in the comments with a QQQ, and we'll try to grab them. And next, I'm going to introduce our first guest, and I'm tremendously excited to have her here because, man, the people that we have on the show tonight, they are the people who are in the trenches. They are doing this work of protecting our elections, and they're going to tell us really the lay of the land, what's going on. So the first guest that I want to introduce to you is Muriel McCarthy. It's such a pleasure to have you here, Muriel. Thank you so much.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so Muriel is from Protect Our Vote Philly, and she is on their steering committee. And just tell us briefly, if you would, where do we want to start? How did you get involved in POV? Because I know you're a little bit new, and Muriel's just like dove right in. She's like come a long way, baby. So just tell us how you got involved.
Great. I started knowing nothing about elections, but I am a member of March on Harrisburg, which is a member of POV Philly. And that group started as just individuals coming to the board meetings, our election board meetings, and advocating for hand-marked paper ballots. And then it ended up evolving. So now we have coalition members. So I went from knowing nothing about elections to being at the canvas this entire week. So I've been an observer, as have other volunteers with Protect Our Vote Philly.
Okay, and I just want to let people know a little bit what some of those things are. So POV Philly is Protect Our Vote Philly. And you mentioned that you were advocating for hand-marked paper ballots. That's something that many security experts recommend for voters who aren't able to mark their ballots by hand. And so it's great that that group is advocating strongly for that. And when she said she's been at the boards, that's the boards of election. They're in Philly. They're the ones who control everything. So I want to know, just give us the lay of the land in Philly right now. What's going on with the results?
So there are on the tail end of the whole ballot counting process. We've gone from just generic mail-in ballots and voting machine ballots being processed to now we are in the nitty-gritty. So they're dealing with provisional ballots, which legally can be challenged. And from what I understand, are being challenged for potential voters not being eligible, et cetera, et cetera. And we're waiting for the military ballots. They were supposed to arrive by today was the deadline, and overseas ballots, so they'll get processed, potentially duplicated and counted. So we're on the tail end. They won't tell us exactly how many days we have left, but a couple of days for sure.
So they called Philly for Biden, but technically not all the ballots are even counted yet, right?
Correct, but because Philadelphia County, which is also represents the city, is 80% or more Democrat, it's unlikely that any of the numbers that come in are going to affect the results.
And now, when you say you've been watching the canvas, you went down every single day and watched them count these ballots, right?
Yes.
And now that doesn't include election day ballots, because those are counted on election day by the machines. Or tell us like what type of ballots you've been watching.
So counting and processing of ballots started on election day at 7 a.m., which was when I was there. So they receive the information from the machines at the end of the evening around, after 8 o'clock when the polls close. And then they start to download the USBs from those over hours of time. But also on that day, that morning, they're allowed by law to start processing and counting the ballots that were mailed in up to 2-3 weeks beforehand.
Approximately how many absentee ballots have been disqualified?
Disqualify, that's a good question. I'm thinking about 4,700 at least. That was just voted on this week.
4,700, and that would be in Philadelphia alone. So almost 5,000 disqualified in Philadelphia alone.
Philadelphia County, yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then across the state, do we have any estimate about how many absentee ballots were disqualified?
I don't know that answer.
Right. I think I was supposed to go research that, but I haven't had time. So someone in our audience, probably, if you guys want to go research and let us know how many absentee ballots total we think have been disqualified in Pennsylvania. And it's probably going to be a lot. This is one of the things we wanted to just show you, this little video, because it was a fun video that celebrities did trying to get people to send their ballots in correctly. It's a big deal because if you don't send it in exactly right, it gets disqualified. And so Muriel's going to tell us a little bit more about that whole process. But let's go ahead and just watch the video. Probably some of you have seen it already, but it's such a fun video. It doesn't hurt to watch it again. I think it's I always get a kick out of watching it. This was made to try to get people to send their ballots in correctly to Pennsylvania, which is complicated, as you'll see.
I'm naked.
I'm completely butt-ass naked.
I'm naked.
I'm like naked.
There isn't a man behind me. These are my hands.
Why you want me to be naked?
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Ruffalo, put your clothes on.
To be honest, I wish I could cover my hands with my boobs, but here we are.
I'm here to talk to you about voting. Did you know that ballots could be naked?
And if you don't do exactly what I tell you, your ballot could get thrown out.
This is my ballot. Just got it.
First of all, when your ballot comes, you're supposed to read the instructions.
Read and follow the instructions that come with your ballot.
If they say to use a black pen, use a black pen.
I know that's like literally the least sexy thing a completely naked person could say, but
I have crumb like can of Pepsi. Is problem?
Number 2.
In some states like Pennsylvania,
There are 2 envelopes you have to stuff your ballot in. Otherwise, it's called a naked ballot. Naked ballots. And you don't want to have one of those.
Number 3, mail your ballot in as soon as you can.
Don't sit on them. Get those things out ASAP.
Like now.
Do it.
Get it in as soon as you can.
I gotta get my ballot to the motherfucking post office. Let's go.
Please vote.
Take your clothes off and vote. Vote, vote, vote. Everyone's voice matters in this election.
please vote.
America needs you.
Okay, so there it is. That's your naked ballots video. So they did actually disqualify naked ballots, right?
Yeah, in Philadelphia County. I feel like I'm not representing Pennsylvania here, being dressed as I am. So sorry about that, everybody. But maybe it's a blessing.
We're
Happy
to have you with the shirt on. It's okay.
Thank you. So the naked ballot issue is about, there's an outer envelope that has the voter's information that they fill out, and there's an inner envelope in which the voter puts in their ballot. And it's called the secrecy envelope. And if it's not in that secrecy envelope, it can get kicked out, as it was in Philadelphia.
And so we know that about approximately 5,000 in Philadelphia got discarded, and it was because of that and because of other reasons as well.
Right. And it's about 1% of the vote or something like that. It's not very high. So I've heard from observers at the canvass that they're happy with that number. I mean, it would be better if it were 0, of course, so every ballot can count. But they did a ton of outreach to get people informed about this issue.
Right. 1% is still a lot of ballots to get thrown out. Many, many races get won by a margin of less than 1%. So it's just part of the complications of our election systems. They're kind of so complicated, and it's one of the things that we're really working on at Smart Elections is trying to professionalize boards of elections, trying to simplify the process, make it easier for voters to understand it and participate, and make sure that every vote does get counted. So keep going through here. I know one of the things that was most interesting to me was that when you were observing, you really described the process when we spoke. And were you really allowed to watch the ballots as they were being counted?
We were allowed to watch by Pennsylvania law. So in March, they passed Act 7. In Pennsylvania, we have a Republican majority, and they passed a law that said that observers are allowed to be in the space with the ballots. So when we initially got there, we were about 18 about 18 feet away from the first row of desks and a massive space at the convention center. And through some litigation and I guess maybe a little bit of negotiation with the board, we got moved to 6 feet away from the workers. And that's, 6 feet from the first row of tables. So according to the law, the board could have done more. The court on Tuesday night, election night, did rule that if the board wanted to do more, they could have. But we were all equally allowed to be 6 feet away from the first row of workers.
But my question is, could you actually see the ballots? Like, could you see the votes on the ballots?
No, we could not. So there was not an issue of voter privacy, in my opinion. So the entire process doesn't allow us to see who the voter is and how they voted. So the distance, COVID is important that we deal with that issue, of course, to keep everybody safe. But we were not able to really see beyond the process. We could see the extraction machines, we could see the flattening of the ballots, we could see the review of the ballots, but we really couldn't see the details of the envelopes, the outer envelopes or the ballots themselves. So we were, POV wants to advocate for, greater transparency than that, but they did follow the law.
Right, but the law isn't really allowing for a transparent process. Like I know, because there were other states that set it up. So I believe you could have they had a camera that was actually showing a live stream of the ballots, so people could see the ballots in different counties. I know, I remember Emily Levy was talking about that. Emily, I don't know if you're there, you want to put that into the chat, information about what other states did. But if you were a certified watcher, right?
Correct.
Okay, so if the certified watchers can't see whether or not the votes are being counted accurately, then the watching process isn't really functioning correctly.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and you also mentioned to me, how big was that room?
It was vast. It was hundreds of feet long, deep.
Right, so you were really pretty far away from where everything was happening.
Right.
Yeah, so one of the other things that I wanted to get into is, I guess an overall question was, does the process seem fair to you? It's not transparent, but does it seem fair?
Are you talking about equal amongst parties and access? Did we all have the same amount of access, the same access?
In terms of the way the votes are being counted, so first off, it's the boards of elections who are counting these ballots, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I know here in New York, the boards of elections are very partisan. They're longtime Democrats and Republicans. And in New York, in the city, it's mostly longtime Democrats. And when they have a candidate that they're behind, often their candidate seems to win. So there's some concern that the boards of elections are partisan and not always objective in the way that they decide what votes are being counted and not counted. So is it possible, I know you're not able to really see the votes, but are you getting a sense of whether the process seems fair?
I would say that it's not transparent enough. It's not available. The information that of the ballots that are being processed is not available enough to the observers.
So there's really no way to know if it's fair or not.
I would say we were all treated equally. Each party was treated equally. We all had access, physical access. But beyond that, I can't say that it was more than that.
You all had equally bad access. It was fair in that sense.
Well, I have to say, I'm going to have to get new glasses because I could not see things very well. And I've heard other people say that. So there is work to be done for sure.
Okay, I have a feeling that Muriel is being diplomatic because she doesn't want to offend the boards of elections. And I see Emily, thank you so much for putting that in the comments that we're referring to Orange County, California. I was pretty sure that there were some counties that had done that sort of live stream of the actual ballot so that even people who weren't there could actually see the ballots as they were being opened and counted.
So to that point, there is a live stream, but I don't think it was adequate. It was at one end of the room. It was near the scanners. Anybody can see that. It's still ongoing. So that is not adequate. So to your point, I would think that more cameras, more transparency are definitely in order.
Great. And then let's just circle around briefly to the actual boards of elections themselves, because the Board of Election in Philadelphia has a pretty sketchy track record in regard to some of the things that they've done. And I really want to hear you talk about that, because you guys got new voting machines in Philadelphia last year, right?
Yes.
And was there public support for those voting machines?
No, not that I saw. The two of the commissioners were running for re-election and they voted for those machines. We contend when they should have recused themselves. And they did receive, donations from the vendor. So there was a conflict of interest. They were replaced by judges, and that's apparently the typical way things are progress, right? If someone's a candidate. So our controller Rebecca Reinhart wrote a report about the whole situation, and she mentioned about the status of these election board members that were candidates. So there were 3 board members, and 2 of them were candidates at the time. So we did object to that, and we pointed that out. And the public, from what we observed, and we attend all the board meetings, we record the board meetings because they don't provide transcripts or video of these meetings. We did get a lot of support for hand-marked paper ballots and not for these Express Vote Excel machines that are made by ES&S.
Right. These were touchscreen voting machines that I remember seeing the video. You guys packed the meetings against them. I saw meetings where not a single person that I could see that was speaking in favor of the machines.
Correct.
These were packed rooms of the packed meetings where the public asked that these voting machines not be purchased. And then you had these Board of Elections members, 2 of whom voted for these voting machines and then resigned and ran for office immediately on those same voting machines that they had just authorized against public opinion, and they received donations from the voting machine vendor. Is that a correct summary there?
It's a little bit, it's halfway. So okay. They voted while they were candidates, then they were recused, and then they were replaced by judges. So 2 of the 3 people were replaced by judges. It was those judges who ignored the public. And then after the public weighed in a meeting in August of last year, ignored the public completely and decided to just fine the vendor, ES&S, $3 million for donating money to the 2 of our board members, and voted for the machine anyway. So they had an opportunity to rescind the contract legally and chose not to.
Right. And so there was a fine there. If I remember right, it was a $2.9 million fine on a $29 million contract.
The largest the city's ever had.
$2.9 million fine. That's how serious this conflict of interest was considered. But the contract went through anyway. So what it really wound up being was a little sort of $3 million slap on the wrist to ES&S and garnered them this almost $30 million contract in Philadelphia. Okay. Right. So we understand that there are some conflicts of interest in the boards of elections in Philadelphia. And what is POV Philly hoping to do moving forward in terms of just trying to address that and the way the elections are being run?
So, we are going to continue pushing to replace these machines, these voting machines, as we did from the beginning. We attend all the board meetings, and we are a watchdog of the board. So we are trying to make them follow the election code and the Sunshine Act. We document everything that we do. It's extensively documented and richly documented. And we're trying to push the board into making choices that improve the integrity of the elections, make them more transparent. And we are learning from these elections because we've been at the last canvass, and we've had myself and other volunteers for POV at the canvass, spelled with 2 S's, for this entire time. And we're trying to learn exactly what the processes are, see if there are any issues that we can advocate for to make sure that these processes are transparent, verifiable, trackable, et cetera, et cetera. So we are trying to make them accountable and doing the best we can with that.
I think that's great. And I put your website up there, and we'll put your email up in a minute. I just want to know, did anybody have questions for Muriel? Thanks so much for all the work that you're doing. I think it's it's tremendous. That's really what we need. And is people who know the local landscape, getting in there, developing relationships with the boards of elections, following week by week what they're doing, and going in there to the meetings and working for transparency and for oversight. I'm not seeing any questions for you because maybe you just explained everything so clearly.
Can I add that, and I've said this before, if I can do it, I can go from ground zero to learning. And of course, you have to have people around you that are really your mentors and know a lot, right? But if I can do it, other people can do it. And you can start from zero and then become quite versed in the processes and the issues and advocate. So I encourage people to do that.
It's really, really great. And there's Muriel's website if you want to get in touch with her. And I put up this, her email address, and this is their website. Of course, they can use donations and support for the work that they're doing there at povphilly.org. And I just want to also take a moment to say, this is the time now, after the elections. This is when we can really get our work done now. This is the time when we can make improvements, make reforms, make changes to the statutes, try to get better staff, more resources, really investigate what's happening, look into the voting machines and do audits of them. This is our time. And you may have been really involved in this because you were worried whether, your candidate was going to win or not. But now you're thinking, okay, well, that's over and I can go back to the other issues that I was working on. But I want to say to you, stay with us. This is what so many of us who have been working on this for so long have done. We actually wait for this period of time in between the elections when we can actually try to make changes and make improvements the way that Muriel and her group are doing. So please stay with us. We're going to be having these forums. We have another one next week. And then after that, we'll go back to our every 2 weeks and get involved. We're going to tell you how to get involved, how to join our data analysis, how to be a volunteer. There's so many different ways that you can join us or create a local group and get involved that way and partner with us here at Smart Elections. So Muriel, thank you so much for being with us. It's tremendous what you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay. So next, we're going to hear from Jean Dufort, and she is working in Georgia. And we all know all eyes are on Georgia right now. So we're going to get right to that. Jean, thank you so much for being with us. It's really a pleasure to have you here. I know that you're a longtime advocate. So let's get right to it. Please give us the overview in Georgia.
Well, Georgia's on everybody's mind right now, right? Because we're one of the undeclared states, although we have a pretty clear lead in the presidential contest, and we have 2 Senate runoff races in January. So on January 5th.
I'm sorry, Jean, I have to come in and say that Smart Elections is nonpartisan and we don't have a horse in this race. So we're not questioning, whether one candidate or the other has won, but I know that it's close.
I'm just saying it's the spotlight because everybody wants to see the results. So the world is talking about Georgia elections, and our election uniquely isn't finished and it's consequential. So that's the context. I'm not talking about who I prefer or not, but it's just a big deal around the whole country.
It is, absolutely. And you have 2 Senate races. Tell us about those.
We do. We had a 21 candidate race for the seat of Johnny Isakson, who retired early. So that's going to go to a runoff of the top 2 candidates. And we have Senator David Perdue, who was running for re-election, and that race falls under the 50% threshold. Georgia is one of a handful of states where you've got to have a 50% number or you're not a winner, except for a presidential election. So on January 5th, Georgia voters will be going back and choosing 2 senators. Big deal. So our elections aren't over right now.
Not at all. And the whole reason why everybody's on the edge of their seat is because those Senate races are going to determine whether or not the Republicans or the Democrats control the Senate.
Absolutely. It's pivotal.
Okay.
So we got a lot more so from an election observer standpoint, we're excited. We have a lot more to observe in the coming weeks.
Right. But the issue is that all of those votes are still going to be taking place on what is really a very shaky election system. And you, of all people, have been at the center of Coalition for Good Governance. And I know Marilyn asked us just to say very specifically, Jean is a member of Coalition for Good Governance, and she's a longtime advocate with them, but she is speaking for herself as an individual. They have a really big lawsuit moving forward, and this is none of this has anything to do with an official statement from Coalition for Good Governance. Jean is speaking as a citizen, a concerned and involved citizen. So just so we cleared that up, you are somebody who's very informed about some of the electronics and the equipment that they're using in Georgia. So tell us some of the issues that came up. Now, Georgia got new voting machines also this past year.
We did. This is the first major election with a new statewide voting system. A Coalition for Good Governance lawsuit, the one that's ongoing, got the old system banned. First time a system has been banned statewide for use on constitutional grounds. So the current suit that we're fighting in court basically says this new system, guess what? It carries those same vulnerabilities and more. So look for that as we roll into 2021. More news about that particular lawsuit. In the meantime,
let me just clarify that. So the point that you're making there is that your group sued to have those voting machines taken offline because they were so bad they could not be trusted.
That's right.
Georgia went and bought new voting machines, and I will say it was very similar to what my understanding of the process in Pennsylvania, where you had massive packed public meetings asking that those voting machines not be purchased, right?
And ironically, the same legislators who voted for that system are now publicly criticizing our Secretary of State for using that system. So we're in a kind of a weird space right now in the last few days. Yesterday, the two Republican senators called for the resignation of the Republican Secretary of State because of how he operated this election. So it's a kind of a late-breaking, ongoing story. It's very interesting to be in Georgia right now. We're getting brand new allies. Believe it or not, today, Doug Collins, who was one of the losers in one of the Senate races, but he's fronting the president's claim to scrutinize elections. Anyway, he called and was joined by my congressman, called for a hand count of the presidential election in Georgia.
Let me just get this right. The Republicans who put through these electronic voting machines, and I didn't quite finish my sentence there, but those new electronic voting machines that Georgia bought against the wishes of the majority of people who spoke out on that, they bought these new voting machines, no public support, Republicans pushed them through. Your group said they were as bad as the old voting machines. That's and right. Now the Republicans who bought them are saying, these machines are no good, let's do hand-marked paper ballots?
Well, they're not quite saying let's use hand-marked paper ballot. They haven't gone there yet, but they want a hand count of the results of this election.
Wait, but they're gonna, okay, that is very confusing to me. They want to hand count these ballots that the machines produced.
Yeah, we're gonna have a recount. We think we're gonna have a recount because the election is so close. In Georgia, any candidate who loses by a half a point or less, once the election certified, has by rights, can call for a recount. So everybody in Georgia assumes there'll be a recount. So now these guys are saying, well, let's not the state election board and Coalition fought this, made the recount rules mean just rescanning the BMD ballots, right? With the QR code, just use the QR code to recount, scan them again. And we said, that's crazy, for obvious reasons. But now a certain cadre of influential Republican voices in Georgia says, don't trust the machines, do a hand count. It's pretty funny to be in our space right now.
I'm going to take allies wherever we can find them.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so we've got new allies supporting a hand count. Now, could you just explain why a hand count of a ballot that a machine has produced is not that necessarily informative?
So yes, what a federal judge wouldn't give us, first of all, I'll give credit, COVID brought us in Georgia. We typically would have at most 3, 4, 5% of our ballots be hand-marked paper ballots. But because of COVID, almost a third of our ballots, in fact, are mail-in hand-marked paper ballots. So first of all, hurrah for that. Big shift among voters, radical shift. So that's a good thing.
And that's because the absentee ballots are marked by hand.
Marked by hand.
Okay.
Right? And then there's some provisionals, and there's also emergency paper ballots. But basically, close to a third of our ballots already are marked by hand, which is fantastic. The ballots of them are produced by a ballot marking tablet, printed on a printer. And all the data says that, one, it's possible by hacking or bad programming mistakes, to interfere with what a voter chooses on a tablet to not make that be what shows up on the printed ballot. And humans are terrible at checking that. They just don't. There have been a number of studies. The very best study has said if you send a voter in with a pre-marked version of what they wanted to vote for, they mark that on the tablet, and then they use the pre-marked version to check, then they catch 3 out of 4 errors. That's the best. Most of them say about 8% of errors get caught by citizens. So they're vulnerable and people don't check. So we don't consider a BMD ballot to be audit worthy, to be a true, robust version of what a voter intent is.
And the state is going ahead and doing what they're calling risk limiting audits with these ballots that have been produced by the machines, and trying to say, like, well, that audit proves that the elections are perfect.
Yeah, and to be fair, Voting Works is helping the Georgia Secretary of State do this. And so Benedict and I have had a number of conversations, and he says, and he's correct, that there is some role to be played with an audit, even with these flawed ballots, because you are at least making sure that the human readable print on that ballot matches the QR code, because the scanners are only checking the QR code. So we can do a math audit, and that is not valueless, but our Secretary of State is overselling this audit and saying we can have confidence in outcomes, which is just literally not true. Philip Stark is quite clear on this. Secretary of State has heard it. He's just in denial.
Right. So I'm just going to clarify this for people who, we're kind of down in the weeds here, but this is so important and it gets confusing. But the basic just kind of law that the academic who developed risk limiting audits has laid down is that a risk limiting audit really only works when you have clear voter intent on the ballot and clear chain of custody. If you have a ballot that's created by a machine, you really don't have that clear voter intent because you have a machine that could have interfered with the voter intent. So they're doing a risk limiting audit in a way that the inventor of risk limiting audits disagrees with and thinks is in some ways almost meaningless. But what you're pointing out is that the one thing that they are checking is that the QR code that they're actually using to count the ballots, unfortunately, they're now checking that that is the same as the text on the ballot. So there's some good that they are doing in that audit. Okay, not what we would really call a robust audit, but they're selling it as that.
Right.
Okay,
so you've checked the math, not the outcome.
Okay, so I know people are just pulling their hair out because it's so complicated, but the big picture is that we got more hand-marked paper ballots because of the absentees, and Georgia's tight. It's going into a runoff, and we have more allies now supporting a public, transparent hand count of the ballots. So we're making progress.
Good day in Georgia.
Okay,
yeah.
Good day in Georgia. Georgia Voter says Philip Stark literally invented risk limiting audits, and he says that you cannot conduct a meaningful RLA on BMDs because you do not have a meaningful paper trail. So thanks for that. That's in the comments from Georgia Voters for hand-marked paper ballots. And so I really want to move on. We just have a couple of minutes, and we want to get to technology and your lawsuits. So tell us about the technology, because there were a lot of technology issues, and especially I want to hear about those electronic poll books.
That's right. So the poll pads, we have brand new poll pads. The purpose of poll pads is two things. One is to let voters check in to know who's eligible to vote. And the second is to encode a card that is going to go on to instruct the BMD what ballot to show a voter. So these poll pads, the knowing poll pads, have been problems in every single election since we started.
That's no ink. Well. So people may not know what you're saying there, but these poll pads, a poll pad is another word for an electronic poll book. That's the same as like the paper poll books that we used to have. People would check in with pen and paper. Now they're checking in on these tablets with an electronic pen. They're called electronic poll books or poll pads. So that's what we're talking about. And these ones in particular, they're made by No Ink.
That's right. And they've been glitchy from the start. They also carry their own cybersecurity problems. They're basically Apple, they're iPads. And so there's all kinds of issues with that. But they didn't work well. They didn't work well in their limited function on during early voting, and in my personal county, in 2 counties in Georgia, on election day itself, they just wouldn't encode the access card. So if you can't encode an access card, a voter can't bring up a ballot on a ballot marking tablet, which is the thing that has to happen for a voter to vote.
Okay, so break that down for us. We got a bunch of jargon here. We got encode something card, encode the ballot card.
A ballot access card.
Ballot access card. Okay.
You know, when you check into a hotel and they give you, instead of a physical key, they give you something that looks like a credit card and that opens up your door? That's what these look like. And when you check in, they're encoded with your personal information to the extent that they're encoded with your ballot style. They tell the ballot marking device what style ballot to bring up.
And that's because we're in early voting, which is a voting center, and people are coming from all over the place and voting in this one location. So the ballot access card tells the machine, give the voter this ballot for their particular location. Okay.
But also on election day, in any given precinct,
really?
It is not always true that all voters in a precinct share the same ballot.
So everybody in Georgia gets a ballot access card. And I hope we'll get a chance to talk to Benny about that, because there's actually all kinds of little things that can happen with those ballot access cards. That's an electronic thing, and the electronic, if it's been, there's ways for malware to travel on those ballot access cards. Right. I think I see Benny nodding off camera. So, okay. So the poll pads, the electronic poll books, they didn't work. And in what degree did they not work? How bad was it? What happened?
So the one of the things that happened is they wouldn't encode ballot access cards correctly. In 2 counties, it was literally every precinct, every poll pad would not encode properly. So those guys were dead in the water until the poll managers figured out how to use the backup plan. My county was fabulous. We were back up and operating quickly. The other county wound up staying open 2 hours late because they took a really long time to figure it out.
You have to tell everybody about how your county's manager fixed this, because I laughed. I mean, I couldn't believe it when you told me what the cards aren't working. They can't get the machine to connect correctly to print out, to bring up the right ballot. So what's the solution?
Yeah. So every poll manager in Georgia has a super card, a ballot access card that can basically make those ballot tablets do anything they want. One of the things they can do is when they insert the poll manager's super card into a ballot tablet is they can punch a series of numbers up and bring up the ballot. They can do plenty of other things. So they're a little worrisome. It's like giving the housekeepers the key that gets into every hotel room. Right. So that's the way it works.
The managers at the polling location have a superpower card, a master card that allows them to go into the voting machine and do anything that they want.
That's right. But for current purposes, let's not trash the hardworking poll managers.
I'm not trashing them. I'm saying that's not safe. That's not secure. That's not okay.
Right.
That's not okay.
But also from a process standpoint, it's a terrible idea to have to do it that way. A poll manager has a lot of things to do on election day while there's voters coming and going in their precinct. And so to have them have to just be hopping from BMD to BMD just so people can vote clearly takes their focus and attention off of anything else that might need the attention of a poll manager that day. So not a good solution under a whole lot of circumstances. But right, that's how some poll managers did it.
I'm sorry. And what happens if that hardworking, honest poll manager accidentally has that card stolen and somebody else gets to use that card? And you know what I mean? Or somebody simulates that card. Alex Halderman, I'm sure, could simulate a version of that card that allows him to do anything he wants.
And he already has. Yeah. So here's the thing. If anybody wants to go down that particular rabbit hole, go to coalitionforgoodgovernance.org. We've got lots of our filings on there with lots of testimony by guys like Alex Halderman and Hari Hursty. Your head will just be exploding with all the ways they've described the vulnerabilities for this system. So
Okay,
Yeah.
and then we just have like another minute or so. Give us the update about your lawsuit, please.
So the lawsuit will continue into this coming year. We're building towards a hearing. One of the beautiful things about this is in the election integrity space, one of the problems is the elections are run by, they're corporate elections. They're run by these vendors for the states like Georgia that committed to an intensive system. And nobody has been allowed functional access to that equipment. Thanks to the Coalition for Good Governance's lawsuit, we have had unprecedented access. Hari Hursty, the world's most honest hacker and one of the more brilliant hackers in the election space, has had basically a back stage pass to this election in Georgia. He has gotten up close access to watch what's going on, and we're going to be using a lot of that information we've gathered for the ongoing lawsuit. So good moment for election integrity that because of the subpoena powers in our lawsuit right now, we've been able to gather an awful lot of information.
Yeah, it's really, really very exciting. And I am so really, really interested to see what information comes out of that lawsuit. And I want to know, just see if I have any questions for you. Coalition for Good Governance, I had their website up there. And of course, just like the other group, POV Philly, certainly can use your financial support. And I'm sure you guys need volunteers sometimes, people who want to get involved. And I guess you guys are just explaining your information so well. I'm not getting comments here with actual questions.
I can have a couple of sentences. There are two issues we're really tracking hard right now with the equipment. One is the voter registration system has a lot of anomalies we're tracking. So, you've heard speculation that if you wanted to hack elections, you would start messing with the voter registration system. So we're tracking that carefully. Looks a little crazy to us in Georgia. Second thing is that the batch management problems we're seeing those in some bigger counties. When they try to upload results, they're not matching. Just today, we had a great poll tape story today. One county, when they were going back through the reconciliation, figured out that one of two poll tape, not poll tapes, but one of the two data cards from one particular polling place didn't upload correctly. Guess who had the poll tapes for that? Coalition for Good Governance volunteers. So if you look at my tweets, you'll be able to see that poll tape, see the story that talks about not all the results were uploaded from one particular machine. So this project is real, and it's making elections better in real time.
That's fantastic. So they had the wrong results uploaded, and Coalition for Good Governance had the photographs of the poll tapes to show what the actual results were from the machines.
Yeah, the manager, I think, caught it first in her review of the poll manager's recap of what ought to be there. They were short, and we had the poll tapes to back it up. So pretty cool. Imagine if the manager hadn't seen it. We would have caught it in those spreadsheets you were being excited about earlier.
Yeah.
Right? That would be a catch in our spreadsheets.
Okay, you've given us the perfect, you've given us the perfect transition there. So Jean, thanks for all your work, and thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Donate.
Okay, so I'm going to bring Benny back, and we're going to transition now. I saw somebody say, oh, this is cool. Look at this. I took poll tape photos at 13 polling locations.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow.
Thank you so much. That's so awesome. Way to go.
Cool.
So I want to take you right into our spreadsheets because we just have like 5 minutes left here. So let me just show you what we've done. And those spreadsheets that Jean was talking about is really what Smart Elections and our Count the Vote project are adding to this. And I'll just, I want to put up our hashtag there. So if you want to talk to people about this and let them know our part of this project with the poll tapes and tracking votes is called Count the Vote, hashtag Count the Vote. And this is our website. I showed it to you earlier, CountTheVote.Info. And I'm getting ready to show you our spreadsheets. This is the first time that anybody in public has seen our spreadsheets. Okay, they're coming. Here we go. I think you should be seeing our website now. Okay, and Benny and I are just going to go away for a minute so I can really show you this. Okay, so let's go look. In Florida, we put Broward County up online, and you're like, what is it? It looks so dull. It's a spreadsheet, but it has some pretty cool things in it. So at the top, there's a link, and if you click on that link, it takes you to, in Broward County, it's going to be a video actually, because most of Broward County they shot videos. And so it's a little bit tricky for me to show you this here.
Yeah,
I have to,
what I see now is just
yeah, I know, but it's okay. We're going to go back and show you the actual poll tape that link took you to. And that's here. So that link in the spreadsheet, it takes you to the actual video of the poll tape. So you can see that right there. Are you guys seeing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the video of the poll tape. And so you're going to be able, as a member of the public, easily and quickly to look at that poll tape. And then now I'm going to take you back to our spreadsheet, and you're going to see what else you're going to get to see and it was so much work to do this. I have to tell you guys, we have been working around the clock. We have dozens of volunteers who've been working like 12, 15, 17 hours a day, and in amazing teamwork. I have honestly in my whole life never worked with such an amazing, talented, cooperative, fun group of people. It's so great. I love working with them. And so let's go back to our spreadsheet now in Florida. And so I showed you the link at the top that gives you the in this case, it's a video. Now you're going to go down and you're going to see that we've transcribed them. So you can see that you have here the total. We put a lot of information here, the total ballots or voters cast. And then you want to see
the homepage.
Is it showing you this?
Still showing me the homepage.
Still homepage? Okay. Okay, so now, okay, I have to stop sharing again. It's just the way that, thanks for keeping me on track here, Benny. It's the way that the share on our platform, on our YouTube platform works. So I have to now take you to the Broward spreadsheet, and I think you should have it here.
Yep, it's good now.
Okay, great. So, and now I have to make sure I'm on the right one. Sorry, because I've got two of them open here and I don't know which one you're on.
Just copy Broward merge.
Copy Broward merge. They're both called that. Let me see if you're seeing the pink or the white. Okay, you're seeing the pink. So okay, so let's go there. So you got total ballots cast, 197, and in some of them we had we actually on some of the photos it would show you how many voters had been cast and how many scanners, how many ballots the scanner had read, and so you could actually check that on some of the poll tapes. And then you see we put, oh, so this is interesting. This is total scans or pages. So probably they had 2 pages per ballot there. And then when you go down, you can see the actual results that were on this tape. Joe Biden, 83, Donald Trump, 111, a Constitution Party there, 1 vote, and the Green Party, 1 vote. You can keep going down. And then we also did, if there were Senate races and House races, we also transcribed those. And you can see here, there's poll tape, poll tape, poll tape, and this goes all the way across. Do you see all these poll tapes that we've transcribed for Broward County? Are you seeing this?
Yep.
Can I get a hooray?
Well, hooray. Wow, that's amazing.
Look how far it's going. B, C.
Wow.
Okay, yeah. So that's just Broward County. And we did this also we have these all across the country. We have them already up online in Georgia and in Florida and in Pennsylvania. Those are the states that people are most concerned about right now. But we also have poll tapes in Virginia and North Carolina and Maine. And if the way to find out where we have poll tapes, actually, there's lots and lots of states. So if you go to that same website, our CountTheVote.Info website, and you go down to the bottom of the website, we've got a map there. Are you seeing the map?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in the map, there's 2 sets of dots. One of the sets of dots is purple and one is orange. So anytime you see a purple dot, that's going to be a still photo of a poll tape, and you can a little box will pop up and it'll tell you like where it was. This one is in Mayfield Church, Sparta, Georgia. It gives you the actual attachment there. You could actually click on the photo of the poll tape there. And then this is all from csay.com, which did wonderful work. And then the orange dots are all from democracycounts.com. And those are, the orange dots are video and the purple dots are still photos of poll tapes. And we're just, honestly, we are just getting started. So we have, in a week, I think we've transcribed close to 600 poll tapes. And Yeah, and we're going to get them all online as fast as we can. I love this team. They're so great.
Wow.
And they've done tremendous work. And now we've already started to pull down the election results, and we're going to be comparing these poll tapes to election results and getting those online. And the first thing that you, the public, can do is to go ahead and look at those spreadsheets. And we're going to get a Google form up for you. We don't have it up yet, but you can start to look at the spreadsheets that we created and compare them to the poll tapes, and you can start to double check our work yourself. So if you're feeling like you want to get involved, you can just start going through the spreadsheet, poll tape by poll tape, and just checking that we've accurately transcribed them. In case we've made any mistakes, we would welcome your input, and we're probably going to put out some sort of game or something. So if you find any mistakes, we'll shout you out on Twitter and maybe send you a handmarked paper ballot t-shirt or something like that. We'll do our best to try to reward you. So lots more coming. I just want to tell you, just make sure that you know how to get in touch with us. Okay, one of the most important things is if you want to sign up for the data team and help us, maybe you're a crack data analyst too. So there's a place to sign up at that website, CountTheVote.Info. Just click on join us and go ahead and get into our Slack channel and help us out. Like I said, we're working around the clock, and we have other stuff coming up. We're not just working on poll tapes. We're also going to be doing public records requests. One of my favorite checks is, did the number of voters match the number of cast ballots? And you would be surprised how many times the answer is no. And so, Benny, are you checking your text right here while you're online on the show with us?
Yeah, I'm getting a bunch of tweets where I had to mute the notification.
All right, Benny's a really, really busy guy, man. It's hard.
Sorry, I did a video this morning. It's getting
You can follow him at bennyjsmith.com. There, you can see that. You can get involved with us, and you can follow me at Lulu Freistat. I think I have a banner up here for that. So there's my Twitter handle, and you can go to our website, find out more about us, smartelections.us. And as Benny said, please do support us. And one of the main ways that you can support us is by being our PR machine. So we don't really have a lot of time and money to hire people to publicize this work for us. So you are the one. If you really think this work is meaningful, tell your family, tell your friends, put it on social media, sign up for the next forum. The next forum is Tuesday, November 17th, 7 p.m. Make sure you're signed up. Sign up for the one 2 weeks after that. You can sign up for, I think, at least 5 at a time. So make sure you're here with us regularly on the forum to stay connected, to know about this work. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will put all of this in the information below the video. You can follow us on Twitter. You can like us on Facebook. You can share our posts on Instagram. You can watch our videos on TikTok. We are all over. As Benny said, please do donate. This work is actually expensive because there's just a lot of moving parts, a lot of components. We could very much use your support. We're trying to scale up and scale out, get more people involved. We want this happening all across the country, in every election, routinely, in every county, for every race. But what do we need? We need your support. So please do donate. You can make a tax-deductible donation because we have tax-deductible status, and we actually just recommend a $5 a month donation. That's very affordable, and it helps us ever so much. And so I think anything else that I missed, Benny? Oh, I know one thing that is usually your job to say. Do you remember?
I don't.
Oh, no. Usually it's your job to tell them to watch the past episodes.
That's right. You guys can watch the past episodes.
Benny is so busy, man. You have no idea how much he has going on.
I shouted you out earlier this morning. I did a video earlier this morning. It's hovering around 130,000 views now. So
wow.
My phone keeps vibrating. I thought it was going to come through the mic. I'm trying to
craziness, total craziness. Benny has like 3 jobs. He's an election commissioner.
12
he does
jobs.
12. How many? Tell me how many jobs do you have?
12 jobs.
How many?
12.
List them.
I can't list them all.
He's an election commissioner. He does website design. He helps us. He's our technical advisor. He has a family with children. He's like a busy, busy guy.
I'm pretty busy.
Pretty busy. All right. Well, it's always a pleasure for us to see you and have you here with us. We really appreciate it. So I think we're going to sign off for now. We're over time a little bit, but hopefully you really enjoyed the show. Hopefully you're signing up and coming back with us next week, next Tuesday, 7 p.m. here, same bat channel, same bat time, and join us. Join us to do this work. Join our data team. Thank you guys so much. Okay, bye.
Bye, everybody.